I don't think they really want to go where they're trying to take us either. If they really think about it, I hope they will read Saving Nine, because regardless of whether they agree with me on any other policy issue, they ought to be able to agree that the minute you rip off that Band-Aid, and for reasons I explain in the book, the minute you start to politicize the court formally, as you would do by increasing the number of justices in order to achieve a desired political outcome, there is no stopping it.
I'm Dave Rubin, and joining me today is the senior senator from the great state of Utah and the author of the new book, Saving Nine, The Fight Against the Left's Audacious Plan to Pack the Supreme Court and Destroy American Liberty. Senator Mike Lee, finally, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you.
Well, you have handed me an awful lot that I'm talking an awful lot about in the title of the new book, and I want to focus an awful lot on that. But first, what is it like to be on the short list of what I would call sane people in the United States government right now? Yeah,
it's sort of like being one of the tallest buildings in Tooele, Utah, you might say. There aren't a lot of tall buildings there.
I take it short buildings over there.
Yeah,
I mean, what is going on?
Yeah, so
what is going on right now with the government and just the amount of people that seemingly are doing nothing or all of the wrong things?
Yeah. The problem is less about doing nothing and more about doing all the wrong things. When people start to think that God is government, and when they start to think that all government needs to take place and transpire in Washington, D.C., that's a wicked combination. A combination we've been living under for many decades, but it's reached a boiling point of late, and the left wants to make it a lot worse. We're here to stop it.
So that really is, in many ways, what the book is about. And one of the things that you talk about, and I've been trying to hit on for a while on the show, I have tried, and I generally try not to impugn people's motives. But as you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And it seems to me at this point, what we are seeing out of the left and virtually the entire Democrat Party is an intentional destruction of so many of the things that the founders had built and had created to allow us to all live free. So before we get into the specifics, what do you think about the intentions part? Do you think a lot of what's going on is intentional, or do you think it's confusion or a misunderstanding of the documents or something else altogether?
You know, I tend to believe that most people on the left have at least convinced themselves that the place they want to take us is a good place, that would be good for the country. In the case of packing the Supreme Court, for example, I think they somehow believe that would take us to a better place. Now, I wrote Saving Nine in order to explain why the opposite is true. So, but regardless of what their intention is, I have no ability to jump into someone else's mind, to read their mind, to know the inner thoughts and intentions of their heart and their soul and their mind. But what I do know is certain things that history tells us. And history tells us that there are some mistakes we ought not want to repeat. As Mitch McConnell likes to say, there's no education in the second kick from the mule. We've already been kicked by the court-packing mule once. I described that at great length in Chapter 4 of Saving Nine. We do not want the education that would come from the second kick of that same mule.
So when you hear your colleagues across the aisle talking about packing the court, and you're hearing it all the time now, I mean, it's virtually every day someone is saying it. Do you ever try to pull them aside and say, hey, do you guys realize that if you pack the court this time, we'll just pack the court next time? Or that perhaps this is a complete affront to the separation of powers, or a series of other things that you get into in the book. But you kind of say to them, hey, do you realize what you're going to do here, even if you temporarily get what you want?
Of course. And, you know, for the time being, they're content with talking about it, but not really doing it, at least not yet. I think they're waiting to do that perhaps until the Dobbs ruling is actually issued. And maybe that's when they start through it in earnest. Then it gets very, very serious. But I think you're right to point that out. I don't think they really want to go where they're trying to take us either. If they really think about it, I hope they will read Saving Nine. Because regardless of whether they agree with me on any other policy issue, they ought to be able to agree that The minute you rip off that Band-Aid, and for reasons I explain in the book, the minute you start to politicize the court formally, as you would do by increasing the number of justices in order to achieve a desired political outcome, there is no stopping it. The Republicans, who in modern history have never attempted anything like this, would be compelled to do the same thing the next time the shoe is on the other foot. That is, the next time the House and the Senate and the White House are all under the control of the same party. If the Democrats increase by 4, you can see Republicans increasing it by 4 more. Maybe it'll be 6 next time. The result of that won't be pleasant for anyone. The court, because of the lifetime appointment guarantee of Article 3 of the Constitution, this will be a one-way ratchet. And the court will expand a lot faster than it could ever shrink. Before long, it won't look like a court at all, but like a political body, and a large one at that. Eventually, it'd look like the Intergalactic Senate in the Star Wars movie series.
Believe it or not, I am a big fan of the prequels, and I think that they're looking better and better over time because of exactly that, how power just flips depending on who's in charge. At what point do you think that packing the court is actually an assault on the Constitution itself? In other words, that one branch of government would in essence be destroying another branch of government. They're supposed to have checks and balances, but to me, it's almost a violation of the oath of office if your goal as a legislator is to override what the judiciary is supposed to be comprised of.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think if you're doing it, the minute you're doing it, not because the court is short-staffed, I think in theory that could be a legitimate reason to do it. If at some unknown point in the future, there's widespread consensus that the human resources on the court have been outpaced by the caseload, you could consider an argument then. Even then, you would want to be very careful about phasing in the increases. But whereas here, they're just talking about a political outcome that they desire, they want to achieve, then this is an assault on that. Here's the interesting thing about that. It's kind of an irony built into it. Packing the Supreme Court isn't unconstitutional. Congress does have that power, but packing it with this intention in mind under this circumstance really is anti-constitutional. It would undermine the separation of powers, not as a bug, but as a feature, and that's what makes it so wrong.
But do you think it matters to them? You know what I mean? Like they sort of, their ends justify the means. So do you think it really matters, meaning that if they can go ahead and do it and get away with it, which seemingly you can get away with virtually anything these days, then why not go ahead and do it? Yes. I know that's not your position, but from their perspective.
From their perspective, that often is a big motivator, and I think that is part of why they're doing it. Notwithstanding some of these risks, is that they're looking at this saying, if we can do it, and it would please our base, why not do it? Why not at least try? Maybe we will swing and miss, but we'll at least draw a lot of great applause from our own base. But for the reasons I explain in Chapter 4 of Saving 9, even when you swing and miss, even when you threaten to pack the court, you propose court packing, and the legislation fails, it can leave an indelible mark, a mark that we're still paying for in the lengthy period of time that's elapsed since 1937 when they tried it last. We're still suffering from what happened to the court, what it did to the court all that many years ago. 85 years later, and we're still paying for that mistake.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.